Alright, in this video I'll be changing a rear tire on a kid's bicycle. You can see it's a 16-inch tube and I can do a 1.75 or 2.125 width tire, and I've got a 16 by 2.125 inch tire to put on this bike. Problem is with these coaster brakes, the brakes lock up all the time and the kids wear out the rear tire pretty fast, as you can see is the case with this one. So there's 2 or 3 nuts or screws that need to come off. The first one is this, which is an Allen key, and that connects to the brake arm, and then there's a nut on each side of the axle. So for this one, I'm using an Allen key and a wrench on the back side to hold the nut in place, and that just comes off. Normally I don't use adjustable wrenches, but for things like these nuts on the axle, I often use an adjustable wrench. So we'll loosen it up on each side, and then we'll push the wheel forward to loosen the chain and remove the chain from the rear sprocket. At that point, the tire can pull back and out, and you can remove the tire from the chain. So you can see there's the bead of the tire as well as the rim. You just need to push on it and separate the two, and then take one of your plastic tire levers and insert it into the gap between the bead of the tire and the rim, and then take a second tire lever and just start working it around the tire, separating it from the rim. You could use screwdrivers for this, but it'll obviously scratch up the rim. Once you get one side off, you can just peel the tire off the rim without too much difficulty. Now I thought this tube was flat, so I did buy that second one. It apparently is holding air, but I do put the new one on anyway, and I'm just going to keep the old one for a spare. So before I put the new tube and tire on the rim, I'm going to pump up the tire just slightly so that it's not this super loose tube trying to go in there. Definitely helps to have a little air in it. Most of these kids' tires can actually mount in either direction, so it doesn't really matter. If you get one that is rotationally specific, just make sure you are putting it on in the right way. And then I'll mount one side of the tire onto the rim. Once I have the one side of the tire on the rim, I'll tuck the tube in. I'm going to start with the valve stem first, putting it through the hole in the rim. And then I'm going to tuck the tube into the tire. At this point, the second side of the tire can start getting worked onto the rim, and really just have to push it into place. And it's going to be the last inch or two that is a little bit more difficult, but this one is not that challenging. So there is the tire on the rim with the tube in place. So I'll break out the pump, put air in it, and you can see that I have it at 30 psi. And the last thing to do before putting it on the bike is to put the cap back on the valve. Installation is going to be the opposite or reverse. I'll get the tire in place, mount the axle back onto the frame, push the tire all the way forward, and then I'll put the chain back over the rear sprocket. Once that's in place, I'll pull the tire rearward. The chain should be snug, but it shouldn't be crazy tight. Obviously, if you try and make it too tight, it will negatively affect the ability to pedal. I'm going to put the bolt in for the brake arm first. This one has 2 washers and the nut, and again it is an Allen key to install it. Not every bike is going to be the same, and some bikes don't actually have this brake arm. Once the brake arm is properly secured, I'm just going to hand tighten the nuts that are on the axle, and then I'll come around with the adjustable wrench and tighten them. Just like the chain, you don't want them to be over tightened, and you also don't want the wheel to move around. A bit of a trade-off. If you make it too tight, it'll negatively impact the rotation of the wheel, and if you make it too loose, the axle could move around in the frame, or it could loosen up and cause the chain to come off the rear sprocket. So it is a balance between too tight and too loose, and you just gotta sort of strike that balance. You may have to tighten it and loosen it a few times in order to get that balance between where you want it to be. And since I'm messing around with the bike as it is and my hands are already dirty, I'll break out some chain lubricant and throw it on the chain as well. Obviously the kids leave these things out in the rain, things get rusty, etc. So it is also beneficial to have some lube on the chain. And that's pretty much it. Overall, 15 to 20 minutes you can have the new tire and tube on the bike and have your kid out riding again. Anyway, thanks for checking out my video. Don't forget to like and subscribe.